What's going on? He is the Sportsnet editor here at Sportsnet. I am lucky to work here, but I love football, and collectively, we give you our picks against the spread for you right here on YouTube. We do it every week, and the record, though, so far, not ideal. We're both 15 and 17.
Consistent,
so
we're together.
Our survivor picks, though.
Yeah, we've been bang on with those.
So
stick
around
for those,
till the end, because we will give you that survivor, what you need. And there's been some bad beats this year.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason why the record isn't ideal.
The first 2 weeks are always tough. There's chaos all over the place. So
yeah,
give us some time. We'll get there.
Some officiating
this week, hopefully.
That hurt. If you are a Broncos fan, you certainly understand that.
Yeah,
the health of quarterbacks hurt.
Yeah,
if
big
you are a
storyline.
Steelers fan or Saints fan, you understand that. There will not be an issue in terms of the health of the QBs going into our first game. It's which QB do you want in fantasy? Baltimore at Kansas City. Kansas City, the favorite at home. -7 is the number. Are you comfortable with the Chiefs winning by more than a score?
Given how well Lamar Jackson has played so far, like the guy, we're so early into the season, but this is an early matchup of MVP candidates so far, right? Like Mahomes has been lighting it up, but Jackson, he adds this element to the game that even for the best defenses is hard to defend, let alone a Chiefs defense that doesn't look to be much better than it was last season. So as much as I like the Chiefs offense and believe in what they can do, I also believe Baltimore is a top AFC contender, and I think they're going to go into Kansas City and keep it close.
Yeah, you know what? I actually agree, because I thought we'd be split on this, because 7's not a crazy number specifically for the Chiefs.
Totally.
And that offense. But Kansas City really good at home, but they're not as good against the spread at home as you'd think. 9-1 in their last 10 at home against the spread, but 9-1 in their last 10 at home outright,
yeah.
but only 6-4 against the spread. And when we look at Baltimore, they've been 7-8 straight up in their last 15, but they've actually been 4-1 in the spread in the last 5. I think the Ravens and Lamar Jackson go on the road, and I think it's a field goal game, and that's why. Surprisingly, we're on the same side of this. We're going with the Ravens against the Chiefs. I don't think we're necessarily going to be on the same side of this one.
These spreads, man.
They're massive. 79% of the public is comfortable with the Patriots, at home, mind you, against the Jets at 22.5.
It's laughable. It really is.
Well, but not only is it 79%, the line started at 10, and it's doubled.
10.
Yes.
Wow.
It opened at 10, which is kind of crazy, which is why it's gotten that high.
Yeah.
That's a lot of points.
It is a lot of points.
Are you comfortable with that amount with no Darnold in the game?
I don't think I'm ever comfortable with that amount, but no Darnold, no Simeon. So they're going to be calling on Luke Falk, who took over for Simeon on Monday night after he was injured. And now I just wonder how the Jets are going to score points. It's like a Dolphins situation here. Oh, talk about the AFC East, the bottom is wretched. But I just don't know how they're going to score points. And it's 23. The Patriots put up 43 on the road. Now they go home. They're facing a Jets team with a rash of injuries on both sides of the ball. And I say that this spread is laughable and that 80% of bettors are going with the Patriots, but so am I. I just can't think of a reason to take the Jets here.
The only reason I have is that, unlike Miami, I don't think the Jets are going to be as active in their own demise. A lot of the points the Patriots scored were points that the defense scored.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily see that being the case.
CJ Mosley, I think, is a big factor here.
Yeah.
If he comes back and plays for the Jets defense, it'll be closer. But that's a big if, and it's a groin injury, so it's going to be tough. Yeah, that's why I have to go Patriots.
The other question I have going into this is Antonio Brown going to play? Right?
Yeah,
that conversation is fluid, and so
sure
until kickoff, depending on what happens with his accuser and her meeting with the NFL this week, that's something that could change this a bit. Having said all that, I'm going to reluctantly ride with Bill Belichick, and I'm going to hope that they start the game well and they're able to cover 22.5.
I know
points.
it's mind bending, but you got to do it. It's third string quarterback here.
Yeah, it's illogical to take that many points, but it's also illogical to bet on a third string QB on a bad team against Bill Belichick.
Totally.
All right. This number is a little bit more comfortable. It's -6. It's Buffalo at home, who've looked very good to start the season. Opened at -4. They're hosting the Bengals. Who do you like in the matchup?
The Bengals were a team that I jumped on last week after performing really well in Seattle, and then go home and just lay a complete egg against the 49ers, who dominated them. And now the Bills, after 2 good games at MetLife, go home, and that crowd is going to be rowdy. And Josh Allen is playing well. That defense is stellar. And given what I saw from the Bengals at home last week, what a sour taste they left in my mouth. So I'm going to go with the Bills. I think they can cover this.
Yeah, it's funny. The Bills, right before the season, they said goodbye to their previous leading rusher in LaShawn McCoy, and actually their running game is better with the rookie in Singletary.
Feels like it, yeah.
That's the difference to me, is that Mixon played last week in week 2, but still looked like he was a bit hampered. Bills' running game looks great, and so I'm going to be comfortable with -6 in the Bills at home. And I wouldn't even be surprised if that number continues to move more as we get closer to kickoff on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oakland at Minnesota, -8.5. I don't really trust either of these teams. I don't trust either of their quarterbacks. 8.5 is a lot of points for a Vikings team that hasn't looked as good as I thought, and for a Raiders team who has actually looked a little bit better than I thought they would, even though they didn't look great week 2. Who do you like in the 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff?
This is going to be an interesting matchup involving a really good Vikings rush offense and what has proven so far this season to be a pretty good Raiders rush defense. I think that's where this game gets decided. Like you said, the quarterbacks have been very iffy. Kirk Cousins just hasn't, whether he isn't playing well or hasn't got into a rhythm because they're barely throwing the ball, it's hard to say. But because of those offensive struggles from both teams, I'm going to go with the Raiders to keep this one close. 8.5, or is it still 8.5?
It is.
8.5 is a number that I'm not entirely comfortable with, given the way the Vikings have performed so far this season. So that's where I'm going to go with that.
I'm actually more comfortable in the Vikings, and it's not so much about their team or even Cousins. It's more about their coach. Zimmer has been really good, specifically against the AFC, since becoming the Vikings head coach. They're pretty much 50-50 against the spread. But most specifically, when you give him a very predictable offense, he's able to use that cover 2 man. And so you obviously know that Oakland's going to want to run the ball with Jacobs. They're going to throw it over the top to T. Williams, and that's pretty much their offense. And that's why I don't see Oakland scoring a lot of points. So 8.5 doesn't really scare me, because I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings held Oakland to a field goal, a couple field goals, or even pitched a shutout. So at home, I'm going to take the Vikings, even though I don't really like either of these teams. For the better part of this year, I'm probably staying away from both of them.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, just one point here, that Raiders loss to the Chiefs, they shut the Chiefs out for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And then Mahomes in that second quarter had probably the best quarter for any quarterback of all time. But outside of that, like, they held them pretty tight. And Kirk Cousins is not Pat Mahomes.
No.
And that's my biggest concern with the Vikings. When it comes down to it, can Kirk Cousins get it done? He hasn't proven that he can. That's the biggest thing. So, with me.
Yeah, no, you're right there. A matchup where if you're, betting the over/under, which is 49.5, I might take the over. I'm more confident in that than I am in the line. Detroit at Philly. The number is 7. It opened at 8.5, so it's getting a little smaller. Detroit quietly has a really, really good defense. Who do you like in this matchup of NFC teams?
I'm actually going to be at this game. My first travels to Philly to see an Eagles game, so that's going to be fun.
So it's more fun when you have money on the home team.
Yeah, but that's not where I'm putting it.
Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm actually going the other way on this because the Eagles have yet to show me they've been good. They've had really good second halves from Carson Wentz, and that's been the reason that they've been in their games, won the first game, and then nearly were able to steal a game in Atlanta. But they haven't shown me that they can cover 7 points. And they're 0-2 against the spread so far this season. The Lions, like you said, have been stingier than we expected, and they haven't lost yet. So they're going into Philly unbeaten. And so I don't have enough confidence in the Eagles the way they are, and we don't know where the receivers are with injuries. Where's Dallas Goedert? Do they only have one tight end? How are they going to run the ball in those situations? I'm a little concerned about the 7-point spread. I think it could be closer, so I'm going to take the Lions on the road.
See, my question with the Eagles is not can they cover the spread, is can they cover? If I'm told later this week that they've made a trade for Jalen Ramsey, I'm totally looking at this game entirely different.
Yes.
One thing Matt Stafford has proven that he can do over the course of his career and this year is throw the football, no matter who's around him in terms of receivers.
Yeah, he and Galladay have such a good connection too, and
really,
Hawkinson
really good
as well. So,
and it's crazy to think that he's a guy who went undrafted in most leagues, and he constantly is flirting with throwing for 4,000 plus yards every year.
Yeah.
+7 is a lot still, even though the number has moved back. I think there's a reason why 55% of the public is with the Lions. So I say this with a disclaimer. If by Sunday Jalen Ramsey is wearing Eagles green and not Jaguars teal, then I'll go with the Eagles. But until then, I like Patricia's defense, and I like Matt Stafford being able to produce some points and keep that game close. I'll go with the Lions. We're back to Matt.
Yeah, talking about keeping it close. This doesn't even have to be close. Can the Dolphins keep it within 3 touchdowns?
Can they score a touchdown? Miami going to Dallas, 21.5 is the number. It opened at 15. This is more about the public and how they feel about the Dolphins, but I can't really criticize them.
No,
because as of taping this, they've traded Minkah Fitzpatrick. What's wrong with my brain?
Yep, Minkah Fitzpatrick. That's true.
Sorry, yeah.
Yep.
As of trading this, they've traded Minkah Fitzpatrick. They might trade Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't think that they can keep it close in Jerry's world against Dallas, who's been rolling thus far.
Yeah, the Dolphins, the funny thing about the way they've been beaten the last 2 weeks is that they did it at home. And now they go on the road to a tough place to play against one of the hottest offenses in the league to start the season. Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott have the Cowboys rolling right now. They lost Michael Gallup, who is the biggest target for Dak so far, but against the Dolphins, who just lost their best player in the secondary, I don't think that's going to make the difference. We laugh again at how big the spread is, but why would you ever pick the Dolphins in this situation? On offense, defense, special teams, there's no reason to think that they can keep this close. And now they're on the road.
Yeah, these spreads for the Dolphins have been crazy, but they've proven them correct.
Yes, exactly.
So until otherwise proven, I'm going to continue to take these college football spreads and continue to take the points. I don't feel great about it, but I would be kicking myself if I'm watching this game on Sunday and it's a 30-point game going into halftime.
Yeah. You're like, why would you ever put any confidence in the Dolphins at that point, right?
No. This one is really tough to make sense of. And it's all about the quarterbacks for me. Carolina going to Arizona. Carolina, the road favorite at just 2.5. Cam Newton, though.
Yeah.
Hasn't played well, is questionable.
Yeah, well, then there was news breaking as we were coming in here that he's re-aggravated a foot injury. He's not practicing today. And Kyle Allen, his backup, is likely, if it stays this way, going to be the guy who goes at the Cardinals. So this spread will likely change based on that too.
It will. So if you like the Cardinals, get in early. And actually, you know what? Even if Cam was playing, I think I would still like the Cardinals. Yeah. You have goal to go with Cam Newton, who's the same size literally as LeBron James, and there was no confidence to give the ball to him.
Yeah.
His greatest threat as a quarterback has often been not just his running, the fact that he is the best short yardage running back in football.
Yeah, his strength on the line of scrimmage is unprecedented.
Yeah,
right?
they're not
Or
using him
was.
that way. His strength in his arm looks bad. So
Yeah.
many balls were in the dirt.
Yeah.
He didn't seem like a confident person speaking to the media afterwards. They don't seem to have confidence in him, and he's by far and away their best player. And we look at the Panthers much different if he is not Superman,
Yeah,
and certainly
of
if he's
course.
not in the game. So I'll take Arizona, who even in a loss against the Ravens, I thought acquitted themselves well.
Yeah, they went on the road and they played good defense in a tough situation against Lamar Jackson, and the air raid seems to have worked a little bit. Kyler Murray threw for a lot of yards. He looked good in that game against a tough defense, and now they go home and they're going to be against the Panthers team without their starting quarterback. So I like the fact that right now they're home underdogs, but even if they end up being favorites, I still like them.
This next game puzzles me, so maybe you can make sense of it for me. Houston going to the Chargers. At home, the Chargers are 3.5-point favorites. My questions about the Chargers, specifically early in the years, is still the same. Questions with the kicking game. Undisciplined play, penalties all over the place. Phillip Rivers, at times, looks like he's playing by himself. Why would the Chargers be favorites? I like Houston to win this game outright.
Yeah, I think that has to do with the way the Chargers performed when they were at home before, and the way that the Texans just performed at home against the Jaguars. And if that 2-point conversion from Fournette goes over the line, or if it did,
Right.
regardless of how that went, the Texans lose that game at home. And they didn't look good. And the offensive line is going to be a continued, we've talked about it every show so far. In Houston, Deshaun Watson has been sacked 10 times already. And so I think that's always going to hurt the offense, obviously, from producing points. And then you go into Los Angeles, where they have Melvin Ingram and they have Joey Bosa, who I think can really take advantage of this. And I was back and forth on this. Like you said, it's a tough spread, but I think I'm going to go with LA. I think they get back to at home where they were good in week 1, and Deshaun Watson has a tough day.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Deshaun Watson is not one of the quarterbacks who's already injured is a little bit of a miracle because he's taken some vicious hits already.
Yeah.
New Orleans, unfortunately, can't say that. They've lost their starter in Drew Brees, who looks like he's out 6 weeks, could be even 8 weeks, depending on what they do with the IR situation and if they're able to hold that roster spot. Either way, he's not playing this week. Going to Seattle, 4.5 is the line for the Seahawks, who are home favorites. Are you a believer in Teddy Bridgewater and his ability to keep this close?
Yes.
Ooh.
I'm gonna take the Saints here, and for a couple reasons. I think the Saints are going to be fired up, and I think they're going to want to play for Breeze, and I do believe that's going to be a factor here. That there's no way to quantify that, but I just feel like this is going to be a prove it game for them, that they're still a legit team in the NFC. That defense is good, and if they can take advantage of the offensive line in Seattle, then they can bug Russell Wilson and create some turnovers. I also think Bridgewater gets some time with Sean Payton. They figure out some wrinkles in the offense, some ways to make it work for them. He's not Drew Brees, so they have those two running backs. They need to get Alvin Kamara involved a little more than Bridgewater was when he took over. And then the Seahawks, on the flip side of it, they've won their games by a combined 3 points so far. So given this spread, I like the Saints to keep it close.
I'm not so much a believer in Bridgewater. I'm a believer in Sean Payton, his ability to design offense around whoever his quarterback is. And I don't think that stops at Bridgewater. I think we're going to see a lot of Taysom Hill snaps in creative ways to produce some offense. I look at this game, and Drew Brees, the future Hall of Famer, is not playing, but Drew Brees hasn't played like a Hall of Famer over the last couple of years. He's managed games and been really clutch. The best running back in the game is a Saint. The best receiver in the game is a Saint. The best defense in the game is the Saints. I think Seattle's defense isn't as good as I expected them to be coming in, especially with the addition of Clowney.
Right.
So, yeah, if you're giving me 4.5 points. I'll take that, and I'll take the Saints, who, aside from the injury at quarterback, is to me still a class above Seattle. Although it is tough to go to Seattle.
Yeah.
So
we said that about Cincy too, when they went in there and kept it close and then
true.
got blown out. So, who knows right now, really?
That's very true. This is the theme this week. New young quarterback coming in, trying to quit himself. And how does that impact the line? Thus, how does that impact your picks? Pittsburgh, the Mason Rudolph era maybe begins. I don't know if we're going to see Ben Roethlisberger.
Not for a while, at least.
Certainly not for a while. Maybe never as a Steeler. Maybe never in the league again.
Yeah.
But certainly not this week. They're going to San Francisco, going to West, 4:25 Eastern start. 6.5 points is not that much, yet 68% of the public is with the Niners. Mm-hmm. Are you?
I am with the Niners. And no, it doesn't only for me come down to Big Ben being out, because I think the Steelers like Mason Rudolph and they'll make that work. He played well when he came in. And the Connor injury, too. Connor is dealing with a knee injury. It sounds like he's going to play, but he'll be hampered, no doubt. But Pittsburgh's defense is the problem for me. They're 29th against the pass, 22nd against the run, and 28th in points allowed so far through 2 games. And given the way that Kyle Shanahan's offense was clicking in Cincinnati this weekend, I think they can keep that rolling. They're finding ways to get receivers wide open, and against a secondary in Pittsburgh that's really struggling. I mean, Fitzpatrick is there now, Minkah Fitzpatrick. We'll see if that makes an immediate difference. But the Steelers are just dealing with too much injury and bad defense for me to pick them on the West Coast against San Fran, who looks the best they've looked under Kyle Shanahan so far.
Yeah, I think when people look at the logos, they get nostalgic about the team that they're betting on and not really evaluating what the actual roster looks like right now.
Right.
San Francisco's been bad for a while, so we kind of sleep on them. But I think part of the reason they've been bad is because Jimmy G has been hurt, and Shanahan was literally getting players out and changing the program. They're better than we think they are.
Yeah.
And
they have legitimate weapons now on offense.
And a real run game.
Yeah.
Where Pittsburgh, they don't have legitimate weapons on offense. Juju Smith-Schuster moving from number 2 to number 1 is an adjustment. The triple Bs are literally now all gone in Brown and Bell, and obviously Big Ben Roethlisberger. And when we look at the Steelers and that logo, we think, oh, yeah, well, we know they're going to play good defense. Well, no, we don't.
No,
they haven't played
anymore.
good defense for a while.
Yeah.
It's that offense that's really carried them. Now those Pro Bowl offensive guys are no longer there. They're not a very good football team.
Yeah.
And the team that got beat down by the Patriots before the Dolphins was the Steelers.
Yeah. Handily, too.
Yes. They're not close to a playoff team for me. So I'm very comfortable with 6.5 for the Niners. I'm in agreement with you on that one.
All right.
Primetime games. The Browns, as I suspected, looked much better in primetime on Monday Night Football.
Was the Jets, though, to be fair.
It certainly was the Jets, and it's going to be a much tougher task.
Yes.
Hosting the Rams on Sunday Night Football, -3 is the number. It's not that much.
It isn't that much. I was really surprised that it was that small, given what the Browns did at home the last time. And, I mean, this is the Rams. They're a top team in the NFL. So I'm going with the Rams. I think this is a slam dunk for me. The Browns were convincing in their win over the Jets, but there's still a lot of question marks. The offensive line, obviously, they're going to be tested against the Rams. And then Baker Mayfield's decision-making still concerns me a little bit. And the Rams, they're only getting better. That offense is clicking. Gurley looks better each week. Cooper Kupp looks back to his normal self. And the defense is stout. So I think this is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, the Browns won convincingly, but they also were stuck on 14 points for a while in that game.
Yeah.
The defense they're about to see in the Rams is much, much better. And I actually think the Rams' offense is much better. We remember how the year ended with Gurley not really playing that well and Goff not looking himself. But the addition of Cooper Kupp, giving them 3 legitimate elite-level wide receivers, makes them such a better football team, and he was hurt for the ending of last year. So certainly I like the Rams. Rams -3 against virtually anybody other than the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
Home, road, doesn't matter. I'm in. that's how we feel about the Sunday nighter. But before we get to some survivor picks and some real quick picks, we got to break down the Monday nighter. Chicago going to Washington, and they are the road favorite at -4. I don't feel good about either of these quarterbacks.
No.
Who do you like in the matchup?
It's funny. It really gives you an idea of where the Bears' offense is right now. The fact that I'm hesitating taking them by 4 points over Washington, they're kind of who we thought they were going to be. That being said, Washington's defense isn't great. They've been giving up a lot of points, a lot of yards all over the place, and I think this is the game where we see Matt Nagy's offense, kind of have a revival. Trubisky finally gets, some yards and looks like himself, and I think I'm willing to take the Bears here by 4.
This will be the only time that I take the Bears as a road favorite this year.
I think Washington's just that bad.
I think they are. And I think the Bears' defense is that good, so I'm going to take them. Quickly, some games that are worth putting some money on if you really are a degenerate, but aren't that interesting to talk about. Tennessee, Jacksonville. Who do you like in that match?
I'm going to take the Jags at home. Good defense.
Yeah, and you can see the lines on the screen. Giants and Bucks. I actually think the Jones era is going to get off to a good start. I like the Giants.
I like the Bucks. The defense is good. They create turnovers. I think I'm going to go with them.
Broncos, Packers. Who do you like in this matchup of defenses that are pretty good?
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced by Green Bay's offense yet. I need to see more. So given the size of the spread, I'm going to take the Broncos on the road.
Yeah, Broncos hard done by last week. They should have won that game. But I actually think we think of Broncos about defense. I think the Packers defense is much better. And finally, Falcons and Colts. Who do you like in this game of strong run offenses and defenses that are really good on paper with good coordinators?
Yeah, I've picked the Colts both weeks before this one, and they've come through, so I'm going to take the Colts again at home against the Falcons.
I actually think the balloon is going to come off the rose for Jacoby Brissett. I like the Falcons in this one. Julio Jones is such a beast. Speaking of beast, we have beasted our survivor picks.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Let's not jinx it. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Who do you got in your various survivor pools this week?
I told you earlier I'm going to ride the Dolphins wave again, and I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I just whether they cover the 22 or 21 and a half, whatever it is, the Cowboys are going to win. So I'm going to take that. That's an easy one for me.
So I do agree. And so we're in lockstep. I've got the Cowboys. I will say, though, in case you've already picked the Cowboys and we've only given you one team to the two of us, if I hadn't have chosen the New England Patriots this early, the Patriots would be the other team.
Yeah.
Riding the Dolphins, just streaming them throughout the year is not a bad idea, but you're gonna need to go to another team to stream against. And I think the Jets could be that team for as long as Sam Darnold is out.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, we'll see. Lots of big lines, lots of big predictions. Thank you so much for watching.